I want to welcome everyone to the annual ESIP Assembly meeting. In case we haven't met, I am Susan Shingledecker, ESIP's Executive Director. And to start our meeting, it is my pleasure to introduce Tamara Ledley, ESIP's President.
Thank you, Susan. As ESIP's President, I want to welcome you and call to order the annual ESIP Assembly meeting. This meeting, usually held in conjunction with the ESIP Winter Meeting, is a time for us to gather as a community, reflect on our accomplishments over the last year, and look forward to the future. 2020 was a year of transition for ESIP. When I think about my accomplishments and achievements as your president, I would say the greatest of those is in guiding ESIP through much of this transition. Shortly after last year's winter meeting, upon taking office, my main focus was leading the search for a new executive director. I had been involved in the search for Erin, so I was pleased to bring that past experience to bear in this search. During March and then at our April board meeting, it became clear that our executive director transition would not be the only big change in 2020. The board leapt into action and helped strategically guide the decisions needed to support a pivot to a virtual summer meeting in July, and made the early decision to transition this winter meeting as well. These critical decisions, the strong and early commitment to virtual meetings and the choice of a new executive director, will impact ESIP for years to come. Susan Shingledecker, our new executive director, has been involved in the environmental management field for 20 years, and the last 15 years has been specifically involved in nonprofit management. She has worked as a consultant in state government and in the private sector. And in each of these roles, making data matter and decision-making has become increasingly important. She brings all this experience and expertise to her role as ESIP's executive director. As I have watched Susan embrace the role as executive director over the past 6 months, I know we have made the right decision in hiring her. She has a passion for the environment, for enabling the collaboration of individuals and groups, whether they are data stewards, providers, or users, to address societal needs, and a vision and energy to enact that vision to extend ESIP's reach and impact. I would like to thank my fellow board members and committee chairs for their time and commitment and service. Organizations like ESIP don't happen without the hard work of many people coming together and looking after our collective needs over individual needs. I want to thank the next round of leaders who will take office at the close of today's session. Thank you for stepping forward to lead ESIP. I look forward to ESIP continuing to engage in collaborations, both internally across clusters to expand the relevance and reach of each group's work, and externally with partners who may not even now realize their need for earth science data in their decision-making processes. I also hope that ESIP expands the idea of education beyond formal K-12, graduate and postdoctoral education to include education on the effective use of earth science data for professionals in organizations, businesses, government, and the public who would benefit from the skills and expertise that ESIP can provide. And now it is my pleasure to turn it over to Susan Shingledecker, ESIP's Executive Director, to share with you the state of ESIP.
Thank you so much, Tamara. So a few logistics first. At a typical in-person assembly meeting, we would take attendance and we would caucus to select our committee representatives for the coming year. So to help us in this virtual setting, if you would please change your name in Zoom to indicate both your name and your organizational affiliation for attendance. That would be a tremendous help to us. To make our committee representative selection process efficient this year, we are asking individuals affiliated with ESIP partner organizations to complete a short form that we will put in the chat, and it will also be emailed out to you, indicating your member type and your interest in serving on a committee. There is a link in the form that will take you to more information on the committees and what it takes to serve on a committee. Serving on an ESIP committee is a great way to get to know the community and the organization. It helps us to cultivate new leaders, and it can really make an impact. The ESIP staff will then take these forms, which will also be sent to those who couldn't join us today, synthesize the results, and reach out to narrow in on our committee representatives for this year. If you have any questions on the process, please ask in chat or email us at staff@esipfed.org. So we have spent the last 3 days diving into technical and domain-specific elements of our work. Today, I have the chance to share with you more about the health of ESIP as an organization and share updates with you from ESIP's 3 core federal sponsors, NASA, NOAA, and USGS. My aim in this session is to give you an overview of our accomplishments as a community over the last year, a snapshot of the health of the organization today, and then share with you my insights and vision looking forward. We have a beautiful 48-page report on where we have been this year, and I'm really excited about where we are headed and all the opportunity that is ahead of us as a community. Underlying ESIP's work in our community is our core values. For over 20 years, ESIP has committed to being open, participatory, inclusive, and innovative, hence the theme for this year. In 2020, we worked to codify and reinforce these values with the creation of the ESIP Community Participation Guidelines. I would like to thank Denise Hills and the Governance Committee for their important work on this. While in one of the sessions this week, I had people tell me that everyone at ESIP is so nice. I can't even really imagine the need for this. And what I would say is that whenever you have a group this large across many cultures and people, and a group of people that is as passionate about their work as the ESIP community is, it is important to have a foundational document that clearly outlines our expectations. While many of you here are tried and true, long-standing ESIP partners, nearly 1 in 3 attendees at the winter meeting was a first-time attendee. If you are new to ESIP, I welcome you, and I encourage you to watch our ESIP 101 video from last week to get a general overview of the organization. What I love about ESIP is this idea of us being a brain trust for earth science data professionals, a place where data providers, users, application and system developers, and archivists can come together. We have a unique balance of academia, private sector, and agency expertise, crossing a wide range of scientific domains. This diversity gives us great perspective to solve problems and overcome challenges. ESIP is comprised of over 167 organizational partners, and that number continues to grow. On this slide, you'll see that over the last fiscal year, which for ESIP runs October 1 through the end of September, ESIP welcomed 18 new partners. If you wouldn't mind using the Zoom reactions to raise your hand if you are a part of one of these new partners. 6 more partners were approved in October and January. Partnership in ESIP is free. Isn't that great? And members of ESIP enjoy benefits, including discounted meeting registrations for the ESIP twice annual meetings, eligibility for ESIP lab funding, the ability to propose new ESIP clusters, a voice and a vote on guidance documents like earth science data, like the ESIP data citation principles, and documents like the ESIP strategic themes. It also provides you ability to serve in leadership. ESIP partners are divided up into 5 types, representing the different perspectives in the data lifecycle and the relationship they each have with ESIP. Type doesn't come into play that often, but it is important in determining our committee representatives to ensure that we have active participation from a variety of partners. The ESIP staff is small but mighty. And as Tamara mentioned, ESIP saw a lot of transition in 2020. Here is our staff from July, and here is our staff today. I really want to acknowledge and celebrate Erin's long tenure with ESIP and her many transformative contributions to the community over the course of her career, including the carefully planned and executed transition to a new executive director. I also want to introduce the ESIP staff team. I hope that over the course of the week you had a chance to meet them, but just in case you didn't, Annie Burgess is the ESIP lab director in Bozeman, Montana. Megan Carter is our community director in Nyack, New York. And the newest member of our ESIP team is Patty Allen, our operations director in Annapolis, Maryland. This incredible team works hard behind the scenes, especially on meeting weeks. And I would love for you to unmute for a second and give them a round of applause. That's a technique Annie taught me. It's kind of
need to
nice
watch
at the
this.
quiet of a Zoom meeting to hear thunderous applause. So we'll do that a couple more times in this session if it's all right with you. 2020 wrapped up the final year of our last strategic plan, which included these themes. When I started in July, I had the opportunity to shape our themes for the next 5 years. We led an interactive session at the summer meeting to get feedback. We made revisions and then worked with the board to refine and finalize the themes. These 5 themes were shared with the Assembly in December and were put for endorsement using the ESIP endorsement process. I'm pleased to say that after 30 days of review, these have been formally endorsed by the ESIP Assembly. These 5 themes, promoting a healthy and inclusive culture, leading innovation in earth science data frontiers, making earth science data matter, increasing collaboration internally and externally with stakeholders and partners, and elevating the role of earth science data professionals will guide our efforts over the coming years. There is a more detailed version with actions listed under each theme that will be posted on the ESIP Wiki. This is a living document and it will be revised and refined each year. We are working to add metrics where possible to track and measure our progress. Now I would like to walk you through ESIP's 3 key activity areas to highlight some accomplishments in 2020 and discuss where we're headed in the coming year. People are the heart of ESIP. That's right in our community participation guidelines, and nowhere is that more apparent than in the work of our collaboration areas. This image always intrigues me as it shows how working together we can accomplish what otherwise seems unimaginable. I've heard some confusion on clusters and committees and collaboration areas, so I just wanted to clarify that collaboration areas is the general term we use to encompass both our committees and our clusters. Committees are meant to be longer term, aligned with the core work of ESIP. Clusters are meant to be a more responsive mechanism that can be spun up and spun down to work on specific problems. Most collaboration areas meet monthly on video conference calls to advance their work. In 2020, we had 5 new clusters started and an additional 2 clusters were rebooted. We hosted over 140 collaboration area calls with over 1,600 person hours, which would be valued at nearly $50,000 in volunteer labor, although we know you're all more valuable than an average volunteer. I want to thank the people who make the clusters happen. They are listed here. Thank you for your creativity and your energy. And I additionally want to acknowledge Megan Carter, our community director, for her role at the center of it all. I wanted to highlight a few areas of note when it comes to ESIP's collaboration areas, but honestly, it felt like I was playing favorites. It would be like asking a mom to tell you which of her children is her favorite. And so I decided I won't do it. Each one is special and unique in their own way, but great things are happening in our collaboration areas. From this year's hackathon led by the Discovery Cluster to the work being done to make data more accessible to address the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, to the newly branded Serene Federation work or the active contributions of the newly formed Public-Private Partnerships Cluster. This work is really exciting. I want to thank the Marine Data Cluster for organizing our first collaboration area happy hour on Tuesday night. We had over 50 attendees at the end of a packed day. I would love to know what you thought of that forum and if you would like to see us use it again in another setting. One of the best ways to learn more is to attend our Collaboration Area Highlights webinar, where you can get an overview of the various areas. But honestly, I encourage folks to check out the ESIP community calendar, find a topic of interest to you, join the call. If it's a good fit, keep coming back. If not, try another group. So looking forward, Megan and I have had a number of conversations around this, and you'll see there is a lot on this list. What do we need to do keep the same? What do we need to nurture and grow? And what do we need to change to enhance the effectiveness of our collaboration areas? We announced with excitement the creation of new clusters, but growth in numbers is not always a measure of success. These are 7 areas we will be thinking about in the coming weeks and months, especially as we transition board and committee leadership. Many of you know that I paused the budgeting process to better align it with our leadership timeline. We will restart that next week. If you have opinions on the 7 items listed here, I encourage you to reach out to Megan and me. Another core program key to supporting our collaboration areas is the ESIP Community Fellows Program. These community fellows are graduate students and postdocs that have research interests aligned with the groups they support. Our 2020 fellows were a truly remarkable cohort. They were energetic and responsive. They stepped up in so many ways, including organizing a session at the summer meeting entitled "What We Wished We'd Learned in Graduate School." I am delighted to see so many of them here with us this week, even though their fellowships have ended. We've heard from our fellows that their involvement in ESIP has changed their career paths and exposed them to people and opportunities that wouldn't otherwise have experienced. To me, that is impact, growing our field and growing our next leaders. So I am equally pleased to introduce you to our 2021 class of Community Fellows pictured here. I hope you've met them throughout the week in your sessions. They were busy taking notes, creating breakout rooms, and reminding me to press record. So thank you to them. Here you can see the clusters that each fellow will be supporting this year, and I am confident you will feel their impact as they get to know ESIP. Looking forward, I would love to grow and diversify our Community Fellows program. While we are very excited about our group of extremely qualified fellows, we know as an organization we are committed to promoting a healthy and inclusive culture. This includes efforts to increase the diversity in our community. There are a few academic programs that reliably send us great candidates each year, but there are so many more who don't even know about ESIP. I want to expand our outreach about this and other ESIP opportunities to attract participation from a broader community. Prior to the ESIP winter meeting, we created an opportunity focused on bringing Black and Latino students and early career professionals to the winter meeting. I will be having a focus group with this group of individuals in February to learn more from their experience and explore ways we can build on this work and keep them engaged with ESIP. Moving on to ESIP meetings. ESIP meetings have long been a way our community gathers, connects, and builds relationships. I've heard many people say wistfully that the 2020 winter meeting in Bethesda was their last pre-COVID trip. I want to really applaud the board, the community, and the staff for the way that you pivoted to a virtual meeting format. I jumped into that right in July. I didn't start it. You guys pivoted faster and more successfully than most any other organization I have seen. Our meetings draw participation from around the world. I wanted to share a few stats on our meetings this year. This does not include this most recent winter meeting. For the summer meeting, we engaged a former meeting evaluation contractor to assist us in evaluating the experience. And I thank those of you who participated in the focus groups and the interview sessions. Like this week, we started the summer meeting working out any tech challenges. And by the end of the 2 weeks, most participants had gotten into the routine of things. Our formal evaluation told us to streamline the communication to attendees and focus on providing more avenues for casual networking and small conversations. I hope that you see that focus this week. Also of note, the investment we made in virtual facilitation training. All session conveners were invited to attend training sessions tailored to the goals of their session, where our facilitators taught us a range of techniques to increase attendee participation and interaction. I see this as investing in our community and in growing all of you and your skills. It made me smile every time we moved into breakouts with purpose or used tools in a new way. I hope you feel that this investment paid off in terms of increasing your enjoyment, engagement, and the overall productivity of your sessions. Beyond our meetings in 2020, throughout the year, we continued our thematic focus with a webinar series with the theme of putting data to work. We hosted 8 webinars during the year to keep the conversations going for the entire community. Webinars featured topics from COVID to flood risk, usability, and fires, both Australia and the Western US. All webinars are available on YouTube and Figshare. ESIP is also engaged in hosting numerous other workshops throughout the course of the year, beyond just the winter and summer meetings. We typically conduct an internal agency workshop for each of our agency sponsors each year. In 2020, NASA postponed their workshop and is one of my favorite new acronyms, ESDSWG, which now rolls off my tongue, the Earth Science Data System Working Group. The ESIP staff will actually be helping to lead that effort in just 2 weeks. NOAA carried on and pivoted their workshop, the Environmental Data Management Workshop, or EDMW, to an online format in August and had a very successful 5-day meeting. In the lower left, you can see an image from Craig McLean from that meeting, which I found particularly inspiring. We are currently in the planning phase of their 2021 meeting, tentatively slated for Asheville, North Carolina, with an option to go virtual or hybrid if needed. Early in the year, in January, ESIP convened a group in Boulder looking at metadata profiles for the USGS National Digital Catalog, shown here on the lower right. Additionally, in 2020, ESIP hosted the NASA AIST NOS workshop early in the year, featured here with Jacqueline in the upper left. And lastly, NOAA IUS funded the Biological Data Standards Workshop, which was held virtually prior to the summer meeting and led to the formation of the Biological Data Standards Cluster. Looking forward, we will be focusing our attention on how meetings and workshops emerge from COVID. What technology should we be using? We know that reestablishing the personal connections that make this community such a vibrant place is paramount. But we also know that remote meetings have increased the number of participants, with over 500 at our summer meeting and over 360 at this winter meeting. Both of those are record numbers. We want to work to keep the accessibility and the equity benefits we see in a virtual meeting and pair that with the in-person camaraderie and focus. We will be doing research on the latest trends in hybrid meetings and potentially a multi-hub model that connects smaller groups of people in multiple key locations. We also need to look at the increased interest and demand for ESIP's facilitation and hosting of workshops to ensure that we provide robust and interactive experience ESIP has become known for. Aside from running our own meetings and workshops, ESIP attends other meetings and conferences. One way we have an impact in this space has been to take a standard exhibit booth and turn it into a collaborative data help desk, connecting researchers with data and informatics professionals familiar with their domains with a focus on making data fair. This program is at the core of our partnership with EarthView, and they are a critical funder of this work. In 2020, we attended Ocean Sciences meeting in person, and then Megan worked to pivot the data help desk to a virtual format in time for EGU, GSA, and AGU. Some of the impact metrics we are tracking here include the experts engaged, the days the data help desk was available, and the number of resources, one-pagers, recorded demos, and tutorials that were available, many of which were created for these events. In the virtual world, the primary platform used was Twitter, and that allowed us to more easily track our reach. Demand for this program is growing. Our partners hosted data help desks at the Ecological Society of America and the American Meteorological Society annual meetings with our support. Megan published a resource on running data help desks, which she presented at the summer meeting, and she used this to help provide some support to both ESA and AMS. Like meetings, the pivot to a virtual setting changed the data help desk. In some ways for the better, and in others it created more challenges. We need to determine our path moving ahead. We need to look at the scalability of the program. Does ESIP hold tight to our involvement, or do we enable others to run with it? And importantly, we need to address the growing information management challenges we see as each event adds more and more resources to be managed. Moving on to the ESIP Lab. The ESIP Lab is managed by our lab director, Dr. Annie Burgess, and it provides small grant support to encourage skill development and community building with the aim of reducing the time to science. In 2020, we saw $77,000 in small grants and $24,000 in Funding Friday awards at the summer meeting. I had the pleasure of speaking to several ESIP Lab PIs and Funding Friday winners at Wednesday's research showcase and was blown away by the talent and the ingenuity in our community. Here are a few examples of ESIP Lab project outcomes in 2020. Lake Pi was developed by University of Texas Austin master's student Jake Garin. It is an open source Python package allowing users to access and analyze decades of global lake water levels. As a boater, that's really important to me. I was super excited. Jake wasn't just excited about his very useful end result, but the skills he learned along the way that will propel him to be a highly effective researcher as he pursues his PhD starting in the fall. If you didn't already see his Medium post, check it out on the new ESIP Medium page, medium.com/ESIP. Though it may have been hard to miss because he got 50 likes and 30 retweets. GeoWeaver, which was incubated in the ESIP lab back in 2018, received a NASA Access Award this year. Jensen's son has worked on GeoWeaver and shared it with the community and built a collection of collaborators since he first introduced it. As you can see in the quotes above, our lab PIs credit ESIP funding, kickstarting their efforts and making connections. And Kathy Todd Brown, a first-year faculty member at the University of Florida, transitioned her successful lab project focused on soils data harmonization into a new active ESIP cluster. I would not want to forget to mention the great work that Annie and the ESIP lab does in hosting Ignite at AGU for the last several years. This year's virtual format did not disappoint, and Annie even went above and beyond, working with the AGU team to secure 11 incredible and powerful VIP thank yous to the earth science community. If you didn't get a chance to see it, I encourage you to check out the bit.ly here. Looking forward, this year Annie and the lab will be leading technical evaluations for several NASA AIST projects. By exposing technology to potential end users during the development period, projects will receive valuable feedback that ultimately results in more useful, usable, robust technology. We look forward to more small grants, with the current RFP closing today with a focus on explicit learning objectives. What do you need to learn to overcome a barrier to your work or to innovation? Lastly, Annie and the lab work closely with our federal partners and ESIP's access to cloud credits to enable a place for collaboration and experimentation in the cloud. To date, AWS has been the primary cloud partner, but at the summer meeting, Microsoft offered Azure credits. And looking forward, we would like to make the lab a platform neutral space where partners and collaborators can access the cloud platform of their choice. So like the growing number of partners, our growing number of collaboration areas, our growing meeting attendance, our growing interest in the data help desk, the interest is also growing in the ESIP lab. The challenge I see is with our small but mighty staff, looking at where to focus our effort to maximize our results and how to empower the broader volunteer community, all of you, with the tools you need to collaborate and participate fully and effectively. I would be remiss if I didn't highlight ESIP's many important strategic partners, including OGC, GEO, USGEO, E2SIP, EarthCube, and others. This year, ESIP became an organizational member of RDA and ORCID. These partnerships are key to our organization. They ensure the breadth of our reach. In Wednesday's session on how do we know if we are working at the frontier, many of these organizations were listed as groups that can help in our understanding of the broader landscape. I also see them as helping us keep our focus. Where are the places and spaces where ESIP needs to be, and where are there others doing that important work? Here is our 2020 ESIP Board and Program Committee. For those new to ESIP, the board is comprised of the yellow and green boxes, with the yellow being our at-large board members. The Program Committee is comprised of the green and blue boxes. While I have only worked with this group for just 6 months, I can tell you that they are passionate about their work and they are very dedicated to this organization. I especially want to thank and recognize those leaving the board: Tamara, Sudhir, Rebecca, Carl, and Mark, for their service to ESIP and for their guidance to me personally. I have a small gift for each of you that you will receive in a few weeks. And Tamara, at Aaron's request, received one of the handmade ESIP 20th anniversary clips made by Ruth Dewar. Please take a minute and unmute and give them all a round of applause. Woohoos are allowed too. I like that. Thank you guys so much. This board investing in me and believing in me, it means the world to me. Looking forward, I am excited to announce and introduce ESIP's incoming board, who take office at the close of this meeting. I want to thank Carl Benedict and the nominations committee for their work to cultivate ESIP's next leaders. Heading our leadership is Ken Casey as president and Denise Hills as vice president. Bill Tang will step into Denise's place as chair of the governance committee. Mike Daniels will be remaining in partnership. Tracy Cleone as finance chair. And our 3 at-large board members, Nancy and Leslie, return, with Cindy Parr joining as an at-large member this year. For our committee chairs, we have Amber Budden returning with data stewardship, and 3 new chairs in Carla, Derek, and Brandon. Our nominations chair will be appointed by the president. I am really excited to work with this group of leaders, and I am excited by the mix of continuing and new leaders I see, and I'm really looking forward to working with each of you. Lastly, I wanted to share a brief financial update to truly share the state of ESIP. Our budget remains pretty steady at about $1.3 million a year. In a typical year, one of our greatest expenses is travel, so that required some real shifts this year and multiple budget revisions. Relative to other nonprofits our size, even with the challenges of 2020, ESIP is in a solid and stable financial position. As you can see from the pie charts, most of ESIP's funding comes primarily from federal grants and a few university grants. Meeting registration makes up a meaningful portion of our income, and along with sponsorship, is one of the few ways that ESIP can cover costs not allowed by federal grants, and it's our only real way to build a reserve. Presently, about 75% of our expenses are direct programmatic expenses, and about 25% of our costs are for running the organization. This fluctuates annually. We're typically more in the 17% range for organizational costs, but with the dramatic decreases in travel in 2020, the proportion increased. If you are ever interested in learning more about the financial operations of ESIP, please reach out to me. Transparency on financials is really important, and to that aim, we post our financials and our annual report on the ESIP website. As I mentioned, the bulk of our funding comes from our 3 federal sponsors. I am very happy to report that these relationships are strong. We recently renewed, or are in the process of renewing, or like maybe tomorrow, we're really close on one, all of these cooperative agreements. It is really nice to have these long-standing stable relationships where we can discuss multi-year plans and priorities. I have asked the leadership from NASA, NOAA, and USGS to share with us today their thoughts on their agency needs and priorities going into 2021. First, we'll hear from NOAA's CIO, Tony Lavoie, followed by Sky Bristol from USGS, and lastly, Katie Baines from NASA. So with that, I will turn it over to Tony.
Great. Well, thank you, Susan. Let's do a sound check first.
Your sound is great, and Annie's pulling up your slides. There we go.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody from Charleston, South Carolina. My name's Tony Lavoie, and I'm currently the acting NOAA Chief Data Officer. And I just wanted to say, Susan, I'm somewhat new to ESIP. That was an amazing presentation. It's amazing the amount of work that ESIP does given the size of the budget. So congratulations to you and the team. So my goal here today is to give you a little bit of an update on what we've been doing in 20 and looking forward to 21. So next slide, please. So at this meeting last year, John O'Neill, the director of our big data program, gave this update, and he mentioned at that time that we're in the process of developing NOAA's first ever data strategy. I'm happy to announce that we completed that and got approval through NOAA leadership at the end of the calendar year. And what I want to draw your attention to is the vision within the data strategy. And that's to create a NOAA culture that values data as a strategic asset. And for us, I think the changing of the culture in NOAA is probably the biggest challenge for us. In terms of realizing the vision, we think there are multiple steps along the way, starting with requirements and opportunities through the NOAA data strategy and the execution plans, specifically developing out a new data governance approach, a distributed NOAA data program, and then ultimately implementation. So next slide. So in terms of requirements, in addition to all the various federal policies and acts and laws, we've really benefited over the course of the past couple of years of having the top leadership of NOAA who were well-versed and supportive of data and IT initiatives. And one of the things that they promoted was the development of 6 science and technology strategies. So moving across from left to right, on the left-hand side, you've got an artificial intelligence, AI strategy, an uncrewed systems strategy, and on the right, citizen science and omics. In the middle, in the red box, we also developed cloud and data strategies. Now, I want to mention that all of these were approved basically in the fall of last year. And the reason we've got the red box around the data and cloud strategy is, in addition, to basically being strategies on their own, they are fundamental in carrying out the visions and goals and objectives in the other 4 S&T strategies. Next slide. Looking a little bit more specifically into the NOAA data strategy, there are 5 goals. If you look at the one word, in the brackets, that'll give you an idea. But the first goal is focused on leadership. So that's the chief data officer, and embedding data throughout the organization at the leadership level. Governance is building out our data governance approach so that we're managing data more strategically across the organization. Open data, this is really heavily informed by the Evidence Act and all of the various steps that we need to take to make sure that our data is open and as widely accessible as possible. Number 4 is internally focused. So this is really looking at promoting innovation in the organization, workforce development, improving the quality of our data and data programs. And then 5th is externally focused. So this is collaboration, engaging with our stakeholders, and leveraging partnerships. So next slide. We think there are 2 key pillars, if you will, to achieving, executing on the strategy to reach the vision. On the left-hand side, data governance. So what we're looking at here is enhancing the existing data governance structure in the organization. Right now, we have a long-standing, very robust, many of you know, of our Environmental Data Management Committee. The challenge that we've got is we do a good job of governing and managing our environmental data portfolio, but the rest of NOAA's data portfolio really has very limited, if any, data governance associated with it. So what we're looking to do is broaden the scope of governance for data across the organization, instill more authority in the data governance body, and ultimately have a greater impact. On the data program, the goal here is to develop a distributed data program. And I think this is important. The intent is not to create some type of large headquarter-based new data management governance entity. What it's really focused on is taking advantage of all of the expertise and resources that are spread throughout the NOAA organization. One of the things that we're looking at doing is developing a distributed leadership model. So in addition to the chief data officer that sits at headquarters, developing out line office, assistant chief data officers, we're going to be identifying the core components necessary for a healthy data program, and also looking at the development of shared services. Next slide. What we thought we would do is touch on just a couple of our priority technology issues on this slide, and the next slide talk to some of the primary governance and policy issues. So in terms of technology, the NOAA S&T strategies that I referenced earlier, a lot of interesting technology challenges and opportunities in implementing AI, ML, uncrewed systems, UXS, and omics approaches across the organization. So stemming from that, though, we're seeing rising data volumes, and not only from the implementation of these new S&T strategies, but we continue to improve and expand our observing platforms. We will be upgrading our supercomputing resources later this summer and deploying finer resolution models. And all of that obviously leads to rising data volumes, which then flows into the next item, cloud and N-Wave. So we're seeing increasing dependence on cloud, multiple approaches, private cloud, hybrid cloud, commodity cloud, and it's for the range of the primary cloud-based services, storage, processing, dissemination. We're also continuing to expand NOAA's N-Wave network, which originally started as the network to connect the high-performance computing resources of NOAA, but is expanding out to many of the NOAA offices and really improving our ability to collaborate across the organization. We're continuing to grow the big data program, which I believe has been briefed to ESIP on a couple of occasions. Over the course of the past year, we moved from cooperative research and development agreements into contracts. We now have just under 150 data sets, NOAA data sets, that comprise about 8 petabytes of storage across AWS, Azure, and GCP. And what's important is we're seeing growing usage and interest both internally within the organization as well as externally through users coming and computing on the CSP platforms. And then lastly, and it's somewhat of a technology issue, new technologies require a workforce that can use them, right? And within NOAA, that means both training and reskilling existing workforce, as well as hiring new talent into the organization. And that also will be exploring partnerships with other sectors like ESIP. Next slide. In terms of priority policy and governance issues, so as a federal agency, obviously we have to comply with what we consider the 3 big policies right now. So the Evidence Act, the Federal Data Strategy Action Plans, and the Geospatial Data Act. And the challenge here is really balancing the benefits that we're deriving, as an organization, as a community, from these new acts and laws with the costs for compliance. So it's always going to be a little bit of a balancing act. Data licensing, privacy, and supply chain risk management is becoming a bigger and bigger issue, especially with our data programs and technologies. The new administration, it's been really exciting over the course of the past couple of weeks to see the various executive orders, to see the new political staff come on board within NOAA, increasing opportunities for our data programs to support not only, but at least initially, climate and scientific integrity priorities. Data value assessments, this is something that we do a little bit of in NOAA, but I think we can do a better job of looking at some of our key data programs and data sets, and really doing more of an economic analysis to demonstrate the value of these investments. And then bringing it back to where we started, changing the culture, trying to build broader awareness of the value of NOAA's data in all corners of the organization. So next slide. So just wanted to close by mentioning how much we value our partnership with ESIP. As Susan already mentioned, the 2020 NOAA Environmental Data Management Workshop. It was absolutely the best virtual workshop that many of us had ever participated in. The quote on the right-hand side in bold, I give the organizers and support staff, ESIP, credit for making this work. It really was a tremendous event. And as Susan mentioned, ESIP will again be supporting us in 2021. Hopefully it'll be a hybrid event. If so, some of us will be in Asheville, North Carolina. And in terms of what we value in ESIP, it's the collaboration, the non-competitive, multi-sector collaborative environment. Susan spoke a lot about the data labs and clusters, and just really looking forward to the new strategic plan and figuring out ways that we can continue to advance the relationship. So I think that's it. There might just be one last slide. Yeah. So on behalf of NOAA, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tony. That was excellent. Now I would like to turn the floor over to Skye Bristol with USGS.
There we go. Now I got all the buttons clicked. Hey, everybody. Thank you very much. And greetings to the whole community. I'm quite bummed that this week I've really just been able to lurk a couple of times, going back through some of the session recordings to see things that have been going on, lurking on Slack and a few other places where conversations have been happening. But I've been quite consumed with a few other matters of late here. But thank you so much for the opportunity to come and chat a little bit and share a few things about where USGS is today and what some of our priorities are for the coming year or so. So first, on a logistical front, we did run into quite a number of snags, and not only here, but in many of our agreements and contracts and other things that we have in motion to accomplish our mission over the last number of months. We ran into some slowdowns in getting a new 5-year cooperative agreement in place with ESIP, but that's hopefully we've made it over the last number of hurdles. Right at the end of last year, the start of the new year, things are in process there to be awarded very soon from USGS. This is really the third cooperative agreement that I've put in place with ESIP through my program in USGS. Over the last few years, we did kind of an initial thing a number of years ago, put a 3-year agreement in place, and this is a 5-year agreement that really is starting here very soon because it was delayed a little bit there. But so we're looking at 5 years of approved and healthy funding from the standpoint of USGS to help in our part of helping ourselves essentially achieve our mission through the great things that we get through ESIP. The innovative ideas that flow and bring back into USGS capabilities that we can put on the ground. And that's really what I want to talk a little bit about today. Our current mission in the USGS really is expressed through a very recently released science strategy is to monitor, analyze, predict current and evolving dynamics of complex human and natural Earth system interactions and to deliver actionable intelligence from what we know at scales and timeframes that are relevant to decision makers. For the last 18 months in the USGS, I've been part of a group that was commissioned by our executives to pursue a longer term planning horizon, really looking out to see what USGS can be and become down the road, 20 to 30 years from now, as we envision what the nation's going to need at that time and start identifying a number of roadmaps that are going to help converge us on that particular point. And just in the last 4 months, I've taken another half of my time and I've put that into a deeper dive into across a couple of our different mission areas, looking into a next generation geoscience data system for the USGS and helping to develop a corporate vision for what that's going to look like. The design patterns that are going to help to bring that about architecturally, the principles that will help to guide that kind of development. And both of these efforts, as they've gotten me exposed to much more of the broad swath of what we do across the USGS, our tremendous legacy of data assets that we bring to bear in the work that we do, and many of the technical challenges and cultural challenges that we face in that has really driven home for me a dynamic that I've talked about a couple of different times in different ways, and I'd like to reflect on here for just a couple of minutes with you today as a way of really characterizing where ESIP fits in the puzzle for us and what I hope for from the community over the next number of years to really get there. So we often talk about this research to operations thing, right? We go from research to operations across scientific institutions all of the time. We try to take some of the best ideas that we think are going to translate into capabilities that we want to put out for our stakeholders, and we turn them into operational tools and data systems and various ways of working with our stuff. But as you might imagine, what often happens in ours, which are fundamentally research institutions, that is our bread and butter. We do both basic and applied research in the USGS across a number of different areas. We end up with this tension between these two worlds and difficulties in transitioning often from research outputs into operational capabilities. And there's lots of ways of kind of describing these different life cycles that happen within these worlds and where they might connect. I've chosen a few words here that sort of make sense to me and represent some of the dynamics that we're often dealing with and trying to translate between these two different areas. We also in the USGS, we have this mission as a government data agency as well. We have a tremendous depth of data going back 150 years that we bring to bear in our science all the time, and data projecting out 100 and some odd years from now to see what things may look like into the future. So we have a tremendous wealth of data and information that we bring to bear that needs operational capacity to really sustain that. But we still struggle in this particular space. And what I've often described as the missing link here, there's a lot of ways of looking at what the missing link might be, but I often look at it as a missing engineering loop where we don't necessarily take the things, the data that we are generating out of research and the potential applications coming out of research and work them through their paces in terms of everything we need to know to really bound problems, develop solutions that are going to stand the test of time, build things within frameworks that can adapt and be modified over time to meet changing needs and demands. And so we end up with a lot of data and a lot of data systems within our environments that, having not been through that, run into problems of scalability and sustainability over time. And as I've looked across much of what we have in the USGS and much of what we're trying to compose together into this new geoscience data system, we have a lot of these cases where we've often asked our research scientists to become data people and to learn enough about databases and technologies. Maybe they have an interest in there anyway. So they dive in and figure out the best way to build a database and put it online. But without some of the engineering disciplines, we end up with things that cannot really stand the test of time and move forward from that point. Or we oftentimes simply assume that the research outputs that we're producing, we can pitch over the fence and operational folks are going to be able to take them and turn them into something real, but we don't engage on what that really means and what that needs to look like. Now, this is starting to change quite a bit, and really it's starting to change a lot because of what ESIP has done. ESIP has made data matter. ESIP has helped to bring about a community, especially in the earth sciences and the natural sciences here in us and with many of our international partners, that is building up a discipline. And we're seeing that discipline start to take shape in the USGS. We're seeing a whole new group of research scientists come into our organization with just mad skills in data and scientific coding. We're seeing the engineering disciplines start to take off in some powerful ways where we are rewarding software development and code development and sound engineering practice development beyond hardware and patents and things that we once looked at as the sole measure of success there. So things are starting to move along in a number of different ways. And I really see some opportunities for ESIP in the coming years to accelerate this pace for us. And to maybe further do what I do in ESIP meetings oftentimes, which I found to be safe environments to air dirty laundry. USGS really does have a wealth of legacy data systems across our organization that really contain incredibly valuable information and data that is necessary for many of the predictive types of modeling that we're doing today that we really need to bring to bear. And we can't currently. Those data are not as mobile as they need to be. They are not as documented as they need to be. Their provenance is not as understood as it needs to be. The protocols and methods associated with them are not as well understood as they need to be. And they cannot be leveraged efficiently and effectively into much of our current research. And we have to solve that problem. If we're going to get to where we need to be and where we're starting to envision a USGS in 20 or 30 years, we have to solve that foundation. We have to bring those forward. We have to prioritize and make decisions in how we do that and where we invest, but overall we need to bring that forward. And as I've looked across many of these things, there are common problems and there are common architectural design patterns that are going to apply to those systems. We need to explore those. We need to look at some of those through prototypes and proof of concept. develop them to the point where we can bring them to an operational state and carry that forward in a variety of ways. And I really look toward ESIP as one of the places where we can really begin to accelerate our pace and our ability to carry those things on. So a couple of specific areas that I'm looking for and that I've spoken with ESIP leadership about in the last number of months as we've been working through things. For one thing, I really value the direction that I see things going within ESIP to further develop and engage many of our underserved communities throughout the US who are often in the greatest need, have the greatest need for information on our rapidly changing landscape and what's happening around us. And we need to continue to develop more systemic equity in the effective use of data within those communities. And so increasing that push is something that I really want to encourage and see come about from across all of our different communities. And as a major focal point for ESIP moving forward, I'm delighted to start seeing that in the strategic development. I really value the various joint working groups. We saw a few of those highlighted here earlier today. Leslie Shee, who's on our call today and leads our Community for Data Integration and ESIP together have done an incredible job of finding connections and places where our working groups can be jointly convened and coming together to solve problems. So I love the direction that that's going and really want to see that continue and accelerate. I'd like to see more members participating in our major meetings between USGS and the ESIP meetings and the ESIP members as part of our CDI meetings. So, please be encouraged to be a joint part of those. I know it's difficult sometimes to find the time to be a part of multiple communities and community activities that are going on. But the cross-pollination of ideas and the expansion of leadership within the different groups that we've seen between ESIP and the USGS CDI is just incredible. Love to see that continuing. The collaboration that we've had together on designing and applying actual infrastructure, tools and capabilities like the Pangeo ecosystem that we've now been able to deploy within our USGS cloud space directly as a result of experimentation and work that's gone on within the ESIP community is invaluable to us carrying that forward. Doing that on our own, there's no way that we could have pulled that off without the investment of folks from across ESIP and helping to make that happen for USGS. I'm really encouraged by the thoughts about growing the ESIP fellowship program as well. And I would really encourage, I know this has been done a little bit in the past, but looking toward areas where we can develop more of a joint cohort of fellows, maybe within different programs from our USGS Mendenhall program to the ESIP fellows to other programs in fellowships across the country and around the world that really makes sense, where we can bring people together that are at that stage of development. I'd love to see some further bits of that develop. And lastly, the ESIP lab experiments, as those have continued to grow and we've seen the small grants have really outsized impact. As Tony mentioned, it's really amazing to see the level of professional output that comes from, for us in government, oftentimes what seems like a relatively minor investment in a lot of ways compared to the massive dollar things that sometimes go out. ESIP has always had an outsized investment in incubating wonderful ideas, new scientists, new people, new technologists that are delivering amazing tools and capabilities that we need. And like I said, that area in particular, as we look to bridge this engineering gap between our research and operations, as we look to take many of our research data systems that really need to move into an operational state in order to be most effectively used, we really need to dive in on some specific things. We need to dive in on some specific patterns related to linked data that we need to employ. We need to dive in on specific semantics and the engineering of semantics within the systems that we have if these systems are going to really be effective over the long run. So we have a lot of questions, a lot of engineering questions that are right in line with where many of our clusters and working group activities are going. Diving in on some of those specifics together to develop working code, to develop working methodology and patterns that we can then take into an operational state for USGS is going to be invaluable coming from the community. So thanks so much for the time today to share a few thoughts and things that we've been looking at. And I really look forward to seeing where things are coming over the next 5 years with our arrangement. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Sky. That was fantastic. And you may not have seen it, but the chat was lighting up. You guys cracked me up. My favorite quote that I think I saw come through is that this is better than the Super Bowl. As a lifelong Buffalo Bills fan and now a Ravens fan, I have to agree. This is better than the Super Bowl. And for the last of our federal sponsors, I want to turn this floor over to Katie Baines with NASA.
Hey, so I hope you can hear me. So I have a slide deck, which I see lots of familiar, not faces, but names in the audience. I've been a longtime ESIP participant. I recently moved to NASA headquarters, and the slides that you're going to see today are really our sort of documented goals and strategies. And I've tried to sort of highlight the elements of those goals and strategies that I think are really relevant to the work in the ESIP community. But you know, they're not just goals that we write down, but they're also goals that we live. And so let's sort of move on to our first ESDS is the Earth Science Data Systems within NASA. And we do have our own vision internally to accelerate scientific advancement for societal benefit through innovative Earth science data stewardship and technology development. Yeah, like I said, it's a lofty statement, but I think that with groups like ESIP and our fellow federal partners that are brought together in a commons such as the ESIP framework, we are poised to be ready for these challenges. Let's move on to the next slide. Like I said, these goals were community developed within our organization. So if you're familiar with NASA's Earth Science Data Systems, we're sort of split into ESDIS, the Earth Science, or the EOSDIS, Earth Observing System, Data Information Systems, for those of you who are acronym savvy. That really represents 12 different data centers or distributed active archive systems throughout the United States that are focused on various aspects of our the data that is collected, Earth observations that is collected by NASA and our partners. And really, so the bread and butter of our activity and all of the goals you'll see here were developed jointly, both 5 folks at headquarters, but both with folks within our organization, some of whom are on this call now. So I really kind of went through here, and our first goal is to set the standard for efficient production and stewardship of science quality data. That means that every time NASA launches a new satellite, or has an airborne campaign, or funds a field campaign, or even funds sort of value-added products through our measures program, our goal is for each of those products to improve the cost efficiency of those products, improve the capability of those products, make sure that those data products work in harmony, not only with our own existing data products, but any future data products that would be produced by our partners or available in the modeling community and beyond. And, you know, finally, to keep all of that, you know, those goals, this goal in mind to set the standard for efficient production and stewardship, we really need to continue to invest in the people within our organization. And enable them to come to meetings such as this, where they can find camaraderie, communities of practice, and collaboration outside of just their NASA contracts. So I think ESIP really hits all of these. So moving on to the next one. Yeah, sorry, I jumped the gun there. Really not just setting the standard for continued data stewardship, but also advancing open science data systems for the next generation of missions, data sources, and user needs. So that really means that we are looking towards a future of multi-center products for research and applied sciences, which, you know, we're not just looking at large platform instruments anymore. We're looking at targeted airborne campaigns. We're looking at field sensors. We're looking at networks of sensors through our ESTO program and technology investments. And we want to not only enable that technology, but also ensure that the data products coming out of those technologies really hit the ground, hit the public sphere, ready to interoperate with one another and with other data collected in the Earth observing system, you know, that humanity provides. And so through these ends, we've been working on developing an open data system. I'm sure if you sat in any of the sessions on cloud or harmonization of data products and open sourcing of data, you'll realize that we are at NASA quite committed to not only open data products, which means there's no exclusivity to the data that we collect, but also not only the data, but also the software to store, archive, search, discover the data in the future going forward, how to produce the data, and making that transparent and open. That's also part of this advancing open science. I think ESIP is really in this third strategy under this second goal, providing community development models. ESIP is showing us how to do this outside of our own internal sort of contracting mechanisms, our internal sort of spheres of influence and data focuses, and is really looking at beyond the federal space into academia, all the different types of ESIP members. So coming to a place like this and finding out that someone at a university that you've never engaged with has similar data problems to you, and it has solved them in different ways than you, or it really provides a wonderful way to share. And we're also, as I mentioned before, not just developing those multi-sensor products, but also the data architectures for them. So that's, going back to the first one here. Next one. So we also believe in a vigorous R&D program. So R&D, technology for the management, analysis, and complex Earth science data. I mean, looking at the communities of practice or the collaboration areas within ESIP, specifically at the cluster level, this is where we start to see investments in high risk, high reward technology. So I think that we have a part of our NASA Earth Science Data Systems is focusing on pushing the limits of AI, ML, hosting challenges, and utilizing what ESIP can provide in their incubator program and their platforms to help us with that. We're also looking to accelerate the adoption. Again, something that ESIP has been really helpful in looking at how to expand our community outside of our sort of our typical user working groups that are associated with each of our data centers. And of course, we want to demonstrate leadership in our data systems. And you'll see throughout, I think several of these clusters are engaged and led by folks from our system. So we love to be able to give those opportunities and leverage the community of ESIP to help us to that end. So finally, I really I think of this as our partnerships goal. And so I went through and I was highlighting this afternoon, and I looked at it and I was like, really, our strategy to leverage the diversity of the global Earth science community to advance open science. I mean, that is the bread and butter of the ESIP meeting. Developing, maintaining partnerships, expanding the use of our data, promoting open science, leveraging, increasing the data across multidisciplinary and multi-agency organizations. I mean, that's where we are. And this group has been instrumental in helping with that. And I, looking at what they've been proposing, when I look at the strategic themes that Susan presented earlier, promoting healthy and inclusive cultures, making Earth science data matter, increasing collaboration internally and externally. I mean, this is right at the heart of what we at NASA's Earth Science Data Systems think is important. And we are so proud and happy to sponsor such an organization as ESIP, to expand the participation of diverse communities. So if you aren't familiar, the ROSES program within NASA seeks to fund research. It's sort of our grants within the SMD, the Science Mission Directorate. We've been looking internally at ways to increase diverse participation in communities. And we've actually been speaking to the folks at ESIP to help guide that. So really, outside of all the work that we see in these really wonderful and, personally, I find them invigorating, the Super Bowl type meetings, there is a lot of work that ESIP does that you probably won't see, that'll be mentioned as a slide in the offhand, but really going out and engaging with singular communities to help. And I know that that's something they're going to be working on even further in the future. And of course, having, if you've ever sat in other previous plenary sessions at ESIP, articulating and advocating for open science policy, I think, you know, the first time I even thought as a systems engineer at NASA about open science policy was definitely at an ESIP meeting. And I think that raising the awareness amongst the community is something that this group of people who are obviously in love and passionate about the work that they do has helped. That it just, you can't even help it. So I had a couple comments that I took throughout the other speakers talking, and I really just I want to applaud Sky's and mirror Sky's optimism about shifting towards rewarding sound engineering practices with respect to reproducibility, documentation, and user outreach. These are sort of my off-the-cuff remarks that aren't necessarily aligned with the goals that ESDS has at large. These are the Katie Baines flavor of these, but I think that really talking about software documentation, looking at how to increase reproducibility, to document provenance, I think that if we all are involved in these discussions at both the federal, academic, commercial levels in a sort of a collaboration or a colloquium such as this, we'll actually get to better results than if we were all to develop our own practices. And so rewarding those and changing the incentive structure around being the glue that holds the system together and keeps it going and keeps it trustworthy and open and available and well documented is just, I think, unsung up to this point. And I'm super happy to have an organization such as ESIP working towards sort of doing the yeoman's work of making sure that the incentives are changed so that you don't get just rewarded for publishing papers. There are other ways to build currency within your particular discipline. Let's see, I think that's really all I wanted to say in lots of glowing terms, but I did want to give a shout out to a lot of folks who were participating. So could you go back to this slide? This is just my picture slide of how these were developed. All of these goals were fought over the last year. And so when I say they were community developed, you might see a picture of yourself in here. I know that there are at least a couple people on the line right now who were at these meetings. So they fought with each other, thought with each other, worked together to produce this, and are continuing to collaborate with this within this community, and are dedicated to improving not just NASA's Earth science data systems, but basically the entire world. So we're working together. Hopefully you are there with us in the future. So that's all.
Thank you so much, Katie. I feel so fortunate that, you know, our three core federal sponsors are really aligned in the conversations that we had. Back in the transition, Aaron and I met with each of the three agencies, and you know, I walked away from that thinking, wow, you know, it's really wonderful to see alignment in some of these core priorities. It makes it a lot easier for us as an organization to support you. So that is, that's fantastic. And I don't know about you guys, but that last picture of Katie's just made me think, oh, I really long for the day when we could stand shoulder to shoulder with our colleagues, right? You'll give me one moment. My notes slide has disappeared, and that would be challenging. All right, we're back in business. So all of the updates that I shared with you today can be found in our hot off the press ESIP 2020 annual report.
Susan, we can't see your slides.
You can't?
Am I the only one?
We are not seeing slides.
No, I mean, I like the view, but we're not seeing the slides.
Yeah, we can't see the slides.
Let's see. See, when I screen share, it says I'm screen sharing. There we go. We'll try again. Thank you for letting me know. Okay.
There we go.
Now
My
you're
screen.
cooking with gas.
Yep, looks good.
All right. Thanks for letting me know, team. Everybody, you've always got my back. I love that. So this is our 2020 annual report, and it is hot off the press. It can be found on the ESIP website and on Figshare. On the website, if you go to resources, it drops down right there, and it's a beautiful report. So what's next, guys? We want you to save the dates for the summer meeting, the week of July 12th. I don't know about you guys. Does anybody have a crystal ball? We really hope to be in beautiful Burlington, Vermont, but time's really going to tell. I listen to Dr. Fauci every morning and, counting on the states for the rollout of the vaccine. I think we've all got our fingers crossed, right? We are looking at a decision point sometime in March based on our agreement with the hotel. And all I can tell you is that we will keep you posted. I know that either way, in person or virtual, the ESIP community will come together like we do twice a year for incredible sessions, meaningful connections, and really, really important work that will help us address some of the world's most pressing challenges. So I appreciate your patience as we wade through the uncertainty that is 2021. And man, it would be amazing to be in Burlington with all of you and meet you in face-to-face. So as a last reminder, we encourage you to get involved with ESIP. This is your place to discover, innovate, network, and collaborate. If you don't know where to start, reach out to the staff at staff@esipfed.org or on the Slack channel, and we will be happy to help you find the right place. Now, I would like to transition to our awards and recognition. While I do know there were a number of questions that came in the chat, I know it's been a long week and I want to respect everyone's time. We will be taking the chat and I would be happy to forward questions over to some of our speakers and see if maybe we can answer some of those in the general channel on Slack or some other place for providing those answers. Recognizing the contributions of those in our community is incredibly important. We will be presenting 4 awards today: the ESIP Catalyst Award, the President's Award, the Partner of the Year, and the Martha Maiden Award. I encourage you to use chat liberally and celebrate your colleagues. Share short stories, and mark their achievement. With that, allow me to turn over things to Tamara Ledley for the first of our 2 awards.
Thank you, Susan. It's my pleasure to present the ESIP Catalyst Award. This award honors those who have brought about positive change to ESIP and inspired others to take action in the past year. I am proud to present this year's Catalyst Award to Dr. Jinghen Sun, Research Assistant Professor in the Center for Spatial Information Science Systems at George Mason University. Jinghen has contributed to numerous parts of ESIP, including the lab, collaboration areas, and the data help desk. Jinghen was awarded an ESIP lab grant, a small lab grant in 2018 for his project titled GeoWeaver, which you heard about before. It's a web-based system to easily compose and execute full stack deep learning workflows. Within a year of that award, GeoWeaver was used to win a National Geospatial Intelligence Agency Innovation Challenge. Most recently, we were thrilled to hear that Jinghen was chosen as a NASA Access recipient to continue his development of GeoWeaver. Jinghen's contributions also extend to other areas of ESIP. Jinghen has been a generous contributor to multiple data help desks and in the last year stepped up to take a more active role in the machine learning cluster. In his time as leader, he has initiated 2 new efforts within the group. First, in populating the ESIP Awesome Earth Artificial Intelligence GitHub repository to make it into a resource for the latest tutorials, courses, news, models, and use cases about Earth AI. And second, drafting as an ESIP-led review paper on Earth Artificial Intelligence. Jinghen is not just a brilliant researcher and frequent contributor to ESIP. He is also very energetic, generous, and a kind collaborator. We look forward to seeing Jinghen lead and innovate within and around ESIP for many years to come. And so here he is.
Thank you, Tamara. It's really an honor to receive a Catalyst Award. And thank you, everyone. And the ESIP is a very amazing community I have been. So I hope I can help everybody. And thank you.
Feel
That's
free to
very
unmute
much
and
in
give
hand,
a
and
real round of applause.
Woo-hoo.
Okay, we'll now transition to the President's Award. It is also my pleasure to present this year's ESIP President's Award. This award, given annually by the ESIP President, honors an individual who has made the most significant contributions to ESIP in the previous year. I am really thrilled to present this year's award, a President's Award, to Rebecca Koskela. This was actually one of the easiest and delightful decisions I made as ESIP President. Rebecca served as chair of the Finance Committee and treasurer of the Board of Directors during a year where we had to make a major revision of our annual budget because of the COVID-19 pandemic. She also served as chair of the Executive Director Search Committee. These were both important, large roles in major transitions, planned and unplanned, that ESIP faced this year. They required time and dedication well beyond what is expected of most volunteers. I truly appreciated Rebecca's work. It certainly made my job as ESIP president easier. I also know that she has served as a thoughtful and discerning sounding board for our new executive director as she learned about our unique organization. Rebecca, thanks for all that you have contributed to ESIP over the years, and especially this year. And congratulations on receiving the very well-deserved ESIP's President's Award.
Thank you, Tamara. I couldn't have done this without all the fabulous people that helped on the committee. Erin has made being executive director of ESIP such a wonderful job. We had outstanding candidates and we're lucky to choose Susan to follow on after Erin. So thank you. And this is a wonderful community to share and work in.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Honor Rebecca.
And now I'd like to introduce Mike Daniels, chair of the partnership committee for our partner of the year.
See me? Hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I also wish we could do this in person. It's such a fun time for ESIP to recognize our peers in this way and our individuals. First of all, I'd want to thank the members of the partnership committee. As you saw, they were very busy this year with a list of partners that we went through and shepherded through the process. That'd be Ann Wilson, Ted Haberman, Belmont Gallino, and of course, Megan and the ESIP staff for this. So the Partner of the Year Award honors the ESIP partner organization that best exemplifies the spirit of ESIP in one or more areas. Been involved in an activity or interacted with ESIP in a manner that has improved the use and value of earth science data and information, or helped the earth science community put data to work, using and reusing data in new and creative applications, creating derived products and showcasing examples of data integration in order to enhance the resilience and enhance the socioeconomic value of data, or formed and strengthened public-private partnerships that support the goals above. So for 2020, it is my pleasure to announce the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory as the Partner of the Year for 2020. And reading from some excerpts from the nomination text, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory has a long-standing tradition of ESIP participation, including JPLers who have held many of the available ESIP positions, from cluster participant to ESIP president, from ESIP Labs principal investigator to ESIP program committee members. Over the years, JPL's sustained and active institutional contribution to ESIP has put it squarely in the top tier of our leadership partners. Last year, JPL continued this healthy tradition, with JPLers contributing to and benefiting tremendously from ESIP participation. In 2020, ESIP continued to be the place where JPLers have found an opportunity to contribute and learn in equal portions. JPL's commitment to and tradition of connecting science, data, and users sits at the very heart of ESIP's mission, vision, and values, which is why this organizational relationship continues to be of mutual benefit. Their participation and contributions are far too long to list, but includes dozens of JPLers from community fellows, which was new of this year, to early career staff, to top senior employees who have many years of experience. They are clearly deserving of the 2020 ESIP Partner of the Year Award. Not to mention, they're a lot of fun to be around. So now I would welcome Lewis McGibney to accept this award on behalf of NASA JPL.
Yes, thank you very much. You know, it's such an easy award to speak of. It's an extremely difficult award to accept. There are so many people at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory over many, many years that have contributed towards ESIP. I would like to actually say to Tamara as well about one of the things that stood out about what she said was collectiveness. And I think honestly that is one of the spirits that the Jet Propulsion Laboratory has tried to emphasize, is collectiveness and the knowledge sharing partnership, which has been going on with ESIP. Another one of the things that, you know, Susan was saying was about small community. It doesn't matter if the knowledge contributions are small. If you can build community round about concepts, and we can grow these things into larger exercises, efforts, that's what it's all about. It's the knowledge transfer. There's a lot of people at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory have contributed towards ESIP over a long period of time. This ESIP Partner 2021 award, I would like to think goes off to all those people. It's not about the last year, it's about a sustained contribution towards this community. So I'll pass it back. Thank you very much on behalf of JPL. And I will say as well, within the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, it's kind of quiet just now, as everyone can imagine, but the award that's been received here will certainly be, that's shown on the screen, is going to take pride place in Building 180, which is pretty close to one of the United States national landmarks. And it will be up in the wall with lots of people, hopefully when we come back to normal operating procedures, with lots of people walking by it. And it's going to take pride place up there. I can guarantee that one. Thank you very much, Mike. I really, really appreciate that.
Excellent. Thanks to you, Lewis, and all the people involved in both past and present with the JPL contributions.
Yep, much deserved. Big round of applause for JPL.
Where's the beer?
Next, please join me in welcoming Bob Downs to present our final award, the Martha Maiden Award.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Susan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now you're muted, Bob.
Okay, let's try that again.
There you go.
In honor of Martha E. Maiden's leadership, dedication, and tireless efforts to nurture the ESIP Federation into a vibrant and mature organization, the Martha Maiden Lifetime Achievement Award for service to the Earth Science Information Community was established in 2009 to recognize outstanding service to the Earth Science Information Community. This award honors individuals who have demonstrated leadership, dedication, and a collaborative spirit in advancing the field of Earth science information. I'm pleased to have the honor of presenting the 2021 Martha Maiden Lifetime Achievement Award for service to the Earth Science Information Community to Dr. Hampapuram K. Ramapriyam, who we affectionately refer to as Rama. Rama is well known as a leader and a scholar among members of the Earth Science Information Community and is recognized for his dedication to the stewardship, open access, and sharing of Earth science data and information. He also exemplifies the collaborative spirit of ESIP through many of the activities that he has initiated and contributed to over the years. Rama has been involved in ESIP since its formative years and has continually contributed to the success of ESIP. Through the years, many ESIP activities have benefited from his collaborative contributions. He also has been serving as a role model, offering guidance for many community participants so that they also could contribute to ESIP. Many of us have been beneficiaries of his leadership when he reunited and served as a chair for the ESIP Information Quality Cluster, or IQC. While Rama stepped down from the role of the IQC chair last year, he has continued to contribute substantially as a key member of the IQC leadership team. Rama also has inspired, initiated, led, and contributed to the development of many published studies that have been conducted by ESIP teams and members of the Earth Science Information community. He also has engaged many members of the ESIP community to join him in worthy activities on several occasions, ensuring that the combined contributions of the team have resulted in valuable contributions. Rama has been a familiar face in many ESIP activities, contributing collaboratively to many ESIP collaboration areas. These include collaborations to produce events, papers, guidance materials, and other resources to further the shared goals of ESIP and the Earth Science Information community. He also served on the board of directors for the Foundation for Earth Science, the organization that previously managed the infrastructure and staff for ESIP. As a member of that independent board, Rama provided executive leadership for ESIP before the foundation and the ESIP Federation merged. Rama retired from NASA over 6 years ago and has continued to support NASA as a Chief Science Research Officer at Science Systems and Applications, Inc., or SSAI. While working at NASA for many years and more recently at SSAI, he demonstrated his dedication to Earth Science information stewardship, access, and open data sharing. His efforts to improve data stewardship within the Earth Science Data and Information System, or ESDIS project, have contributed immensely to the evolution of the NASA Earth Observing System Data and Information System, or EOSDIS. These improvements have had lasting effects on the Distributed Active Archive Centers, or DACs, and on the way that they have worked together and with ESDIS to attain their mutual objectives of providing the public with open access to scientific data. Within various roles, Rama has brought out the best in others and has raised the level of professionalism, congeniality, collegiality, and collaboration that is observed within the Earth Science Information community. Learning about the opportunity to recognize Rama for his many contributions to the ESIP community, several individuals offered to provide letters to support his nomination for the 2021 ESIP Martha Maiden Lifetime Achievement Award. The supporting letters serve as a testament to his selfless contributions to ESIP and the Earth Science Information community. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Hampapuram K. Ramapriyam as the 2021 recipient of the Martha Maiden Lifetime Achievement Award for service to the Earth Science Information community. Please welcome Rama to say a few words by unmuting and giving him a round of applause.
Yay!
Bravo, you rock.
Rama.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. That came as a very pleasant surprise a few weeks ago, and I got a hard copy of the display that you've got there sitting on my desk here. Oops, I'm trying to start my video and it's not quite clicking on it. Let me try again. Well, okay, here we go. I was clicking at the wrong place. Okay, here I am. So just want to say a few words. And Martha Maiden and I have both had long careers with NASA. And having worked with her since mid-1990s in various capacities, I have a great deal of respect for her. It's a great honor to receive this award from ESIP. And I thank ESIP as well as everybody who sent in the support letters, nomination letters. I mention often to myself and others that I have been very lucky in my life to be surrounded by many people much smarter than I am, from whom I have learned a lot, whether it is in professional life or in private life. ESIP is no exception in giving me a chance to interact with such people. I've been associated with ESIP since its inception or even before. I've found it particularly beneficial to take part in the Data Stewardship Committee and its related collaboration areas, Information Quality Cluster, Research Artifact Citation Cluster, Data Management Training Working Group over the years. So results from ESIP are taken back to NASA and vice versa. We discussed in the Data Stewardship Committee, actually a cluster before it even became a committee, the preservation of provenance and context with our data sets. This led to NASA's preservation content specification that has been used since 2012 for our missions. It turned out it led to an international standard now called ISO 19165-2 for preservation of data and metadata that pertain to our data sets. The citation guidelines we developed in ESIP have been adopted by NASA as well. And NASA's Data Quality Working Group has contributed significantly to the information quality cluster with common membership and essentially taking over what the now retired Data Quality Working Group used to do is continuing quite well with the information quality cluster, and it has grown quite well, nicely. And so these are a couple of major examples of mutually beneficial information exchange I have been involved in. Each ESIP meeting I attend is filled with exciting educational and collaborative opportunities. It is so rich with interesting sessions that it's always difficult to choose what sessions to attend. I really value the many interactions with scholars and experts in various aspects of science informatics. As I mentioned earlier, I'm surrounded by people much smarter than I am. I feel quite humbled. Thank you very much.
Everyone can join us in a round of applause for Rama. Congratulations.
Oh, Rama.
Hey. Very modest.
I would like to ask all of our award recipients if you could just stick around for a couple minutes after we close. I want to do our best to try and get a group photo on Zoom. I know if I don't at least try, I'll regret it, especially when I'm going to do our annual report next year. So please just hang with us for a couple of minutes. I really want to thank everyone for a tremendous meeting. And with this, I bring the annual ESIP Assembly meeting to a close. I thank you for sticking with us and logging back in, even when Zoom fatigue was settling in. I want to recognize our sponsors one last time. I want to recognize SAIC, our silver level sponsor and a new partner of ESIP. I want to recognize AGU, our research showcase sponsor, and Element 84, as well as our in-kind sponsors of Amazon Web Services and Figshare. I want to thank our outgoing and our incoming, or now I guess our new leadership. And I really want to thank the ESIP staff. Please don't forget to complete your interest form for serving on committees next year. That's really important. And we look forward to seeing you in the next round of collaboration area calls coming up soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Susan and ESIP.
Yes,
Hey,
thank you very much, Susan, and everybody else.
Good job, everybody.
Thank you, friends.
Thanks for a great week, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye for
everyone.
now.
Thanks, everybody.